Can y'all hear me? Welcome back to the third episode of The Healthy Rojak. Yes, welcome to the third episode. And we've got a very interesting episode today, a very interesting topic. It is nice to come again. How was your Raya? For those of you who celebrated Hari Raya, I hope you had a good time with your friends and family. It's nice to know that everybody had a good time of celebration this year. Do let me know where you're watching us from. It'll be nice to know where you're coming to us from. Nice to engage with you after 2 weeks. I just want to give you a brief idea of what the Healthy Roja is as well. Since it's been three episodes. This is our third one. So the Healthy Roja is about talking about health and wellness. And the idea of health and wellness here is basically in the sense that we want to come to you in a Malaysian perspective, in a local perspective. And the areas we want to cover is the human body, uh, food and nutrition, mental and emotional well-being, and fitness. So today we are in the third part of those pillars that I call it. I call them pillars. And we're going to talk about mental health. Do want to hear from you. Do let me know where you're coming from. Hi, Karishma. Nice to know that you're watching us. Thank you for watching. Where are you coming us? Where are you watching us from? That'll be nice to know. So, our topic. Our topic today is mental health, mental and emotional well-being. It's mental health in context is about having faith that things are going to get better. And with mental health, there is this stigma associated to this area of health and wellness, especially in an Asian setting. So I guess the first step to improving one's mental health is recognizing the signs and symptoms of that illness. I believe that with faith, hope, and love are all important aspects of mental health that should be brought up when discussing this topic, because there are all things that can help someone cope with their day-to-day struggles with their illness. And today, the Healthy Roja, in collaboration with Sakina Medicare, will dive into this topic as it's pivotal as we start now that our horizon will be hopeful and to an amazing future. Today, we are privileged to have Miss Sarah, who is a clinical psychologist. She got her degree from UK. She's got her master's from the University of Cyberjaya in Malaysia. She's currently pursuing her PhD, a doctor in philosophy. She had also been in the private and government sector previously. She's also a member of the Malaysian Society of Clinical Psychology, Persatuan Psikologi Malaysia, and the British Psychological Society. She is passionate about increasing awareness about mental health in the hopes of bridging the gaps to normalize mental health, and particularly in Malaysia. Her quote is, "Very first step to self-recovery is and growth is to simply start with oneself, and the rest will follow." And we have Miss Sarah with us here today. Hello, Miss Sarah.
Hi, Edwin. Hi, everyone.
Hi. And our second guest is Miss Andrea, and she's a graduate from the University Tunku Abdul Rahman, and she has a master's in clinical psychology from UKM. She had also been in the private and government sector. She's currently in the private sector. Her belief is in being gentle with oneself as we all are finding our way in this world. Welcome, Miss Andrea.
Thank you, Edwin. Hi, everyone.
How are you all
Andrea.
doing today?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Pretty excited about the topic, though. It's
Yeah.
a very interesting one, very cold one
Much
also,
needed
I
topic,
would say.
right? Much needed topic.
Very, yeah, very timely, I would say. Very timely, I would say. Yeah.
Right.
So how was your day? How was Raya? How's Raya for you?
Well, it was good. I mean, it's been about 2 years since I traveled back home, so it was nice to actually, go back after some time with, the
Yeah.
until and the whole traveling. So it was really nice to see everyone again, and they're having that riot environment back again.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. How about you, Andrea? What do you do during the long break?
Mostly stayed home. I
Well, if
visited
you're in
some
KL, it's the best
relatives.
place to be.
Yeah, I did visit some relatives back in Penang, but I didn't get to go
that's
out much also.
that's nice. That's nice. So, my fellow Malaysians, without further ado, maybe we can get into the topic of mental and emotional well-being. What we would like to do is we'd like to take you through the contents so that we would understand the flow of the show, and we would get Miss Sarah to walk us through the content, maybe.
Yeah, sure. Okay, but before we do, I'd just like to get to know more from the audience here. Yeah, where are you from? So let's say, and how have you been feeling? So let's see if let's say if you're in KL, I want you to write KL, type KL. If you're
Alright.
outside KL, maybe you can write outside KL. So we want to
we've
know
got
where is everyone from? We might have someone from Sabah or from Johor or KL. Let's see where's everyone at. So Dorothy says that she's from KL. Karishma saying that she wishes she was from outer space, but in PJ. Yeah, I wish we were in outer space as well, right? Right. Adelina in KL. Nice.
Adelina's in KL.
Okay.
Yeah. Guess we
CK
have
in
KL people.
Nice. How about
A lot
others?
of KL
I see a lot of
people.
KL. Jerome
Subang.
is from Subanjaya. Okay,
Right.
nice. So it's more within
Right.
the Klang area. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Guess we're
good.
covering the Klang Valley.
Yes. Stephen, hi Stephen. Welcome.
Hello.
Okay, hi Dr. Lau. It's Weimun. Okay, so Weimun from KL. Nice.
Raymond.
KL as well.
Nice.
Okay, good.
Nice.
Yasmin KL, also in KL. So we see a lot of
KL.
people more within the state itself. Yeah. Okay,
I guess
that's
all
very
of us
good.
are within Klang Valley.
Yes. Okay. I would like to say.
Tanjung Karang.
Oh, okay,
Nice.
nice. So we have various places that's coming in and joining us. Yeah. So I would like to ask. Okay, I would like to also check. How have you been feeling lately? Have for the past week. How would you say you've been feeling? Would you say that you've been feeling great lately? If you've been feeling great, I want you to type in the chat box great. If you've been feeling not so great, maybe you can let me know. Not so great, right? Adelina from
Come
KL. Nisamani KL. I apologize if I pronounce your name incorrectly.
Oh,
Adelina
is
feeling drained. Okay, yes.
Okay.
So Adelina feeling drained, right? What else? Who else? I mean, if you're feeling stressed, you can
Anybody
be feeling,
else? Happy? Anyone's
Can
feeling
be
happy?
great, feeling happy. Yeah. Some might be feeling stressed. Feel free to just share in how you've been feeling the past week or the past 2 weeks. Gerald feeling great. Okay, good week so far. So we have a mixed response here. Karishma saying surprisingly awesome, but maybe because she just came from a gym. Okay, there's a reason why she's feeling awesome. All pumped up, yeah. Adelina feeling happy.
Nice, Gerald.
Yeah. Nice. Karuna feeling busy but fulfilled. Okay, interesting one. So she's being very active from what I'm hearing, but but feeling fulfilled. Till last, waiting for this podcast. Waiting for this podcast on LinkedIn. Okay, what's the feeling, Dr. Lau? Is that a good feeling? Or how would you express that?
It's kind of like one of those Facebook posts where you can write like someone is feeling and then you can type in your own thing.
Yes. I wish we had the emoticon that, right? Where we can express and show the expression. Okay. Adina's feeling happy. Okay. All right. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for your response. Because we can see that we have mixed response. Yeah. The reason why I'm asking is we want to see, how have you been feeling? Because again, the focus of this talk is not just to, simply just share about this topic, but really to understand what's going on and, how we've been feeling and how we can go about that. Because, the reality is, life throws at us different challenges. Yeah. And how we navigate through that, really depends on our state of mental health. Yeah. And this is a very good topic to talk about because, sometimes we have this perception that, mental health is only for a specific type of people, or, for those who might have, weak mental state and, or maybe weak faith, etc. And that's not the case at all. Yeah. The reality is just as how, we have physical health, we also have mental health. And the question is, do we have a good, state of mental health, or is it a poor mental health? This is the question. Yeah. And either which one you're at, right, it's okay. The focus is how do we go about that? Okay, so this is the focus today. So, okay, maybe we can throw in the slide and we can just get a bit more into that. Okay. At the same time, if any of you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat box. We'll get to them, right, either in between or at the end of the discussion. All right, I think probably Eddie will throw us some questions in between just to get the conversation
ball rolling.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. That's cool.
So the focus of some of the areas that we'll be covering is understanding what is mental health. What do we mean by that, right? And the next thing is, why is it so important? Why is it so important for us to actually do something about this mental health? And what happens if we don't take up mental health? Will we be affected? And if we are affected, to what extent do we get affected in that sense, right? And the next part is stress. Because stress is something that we often face, right? But the question is stress a good thing or a bad thing? Or, could it be both, right? And the next is, what are the signs? How do you know if your state of mental health is not in a good shape or otherwise? Yeah. And lastly is, we're going to give you some practical tips that you can do for now, right, to actually improve or deal with your mental health. So practical ways to actually enhance your mental health. Yeah, this is kind of what we'll be covering for tonight. Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah. So
welcome.
Let's get into it then.
Let's get into it.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So we have another question popping up. Okay, it's okay. We'll go very briefly on this. Okay, I'll ask Edwin and the audience here. What happens? What do you think happens if the stress is not managed properly? You can throw in your answers. It doesn't have to be right? But what do you think happens if our stress is not managed properly?
I think we do crazy things. We don't know what we're doing, probably.
Yes, that's very true. We can do crazy things, right? When our stress is at high level, or when we feel the pressure is high, which is causing that high stress, right? What else? What do our audience think here? Let me see. Do we have anyone?
What is it that y'all feel? Come on, let me.
Adrina, like her. I don't know. Right? I don't know what that could be. Right? Yasmin's saying more stressed. Yeah. So you're already stressed, but the fact that the stress is not managed properly, you feel more stressed because of that. Yeah. And that is the reality for many, right? Many of us might be going through the stress, but we just don't know how do we manage the stress. Yeah. All right. Perfect. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So in Malaysia itself, we want to go to the context in Malaysia, so that we want to see how many Malaysians are actually going through this. When we talk about mental health issues, whether it's general mental health issues, or to the clinical level, we find that in every 3 in 10 Malaysians actually suffer from mental health issues, right? And this is not limited to just adults. Even teenagers are experiencing this. Children are also experiencing this, but the level of severity and the degree of it differs. Yeah. So this is what this shows that a lot of us are struggling with mental health, right? But it's just that some of us may know that we might be going through it. Some of us might not be aware, right? Or some of us might not quite sure how do we manage this mental health, or deal with this, right? Because it's a very taboo and stigmatized topic.
Correct. How about in the last 2 years? I mean, with the pandemic and all, do you believe this number could be more? I mean,
Yes. I mean, from statistics we've seen, from the past 2 years, even from WHO, right? From the studies it shows, even in Malaysia, it has actually doubled. And the level of the rates of mental health issues, particularly in areas of depression and anxiety. These are the two, I would say, the highest level that has increased. I mean, it's doubled, the level of prevalence there. Right. So meaning that the MCO, the COVID-19, it does affect us a lot of times, because it affects the lifestyle. There's a lot of adjustment that we had to adjust, not being able to go outside, having to wear the mask, following an SOP, right? Some of us may have to have family members that is going through the COVID-19 and kind of, losing some of our loved ones. Some of them, are experiencing the symptoms itself, especially with the lingering effect of it. So there's many factors kind of coming into here. Grieving, right? Adjustment issue, stress, adding more stress, because especially for those who had to work from home, some might be having family members, some might be having children, some might be living with their roommates, right? And you're stuck in that environment throughout the whole day, which is adding stress, right? Because you don't have your privacy. And
I know, right? Yeah, because I mean, I used to be working from home as well, and my dining was my office, and my bedroom is just across the dining. And every time you wake up, you see the laptop there. It's like work,
Work.
It's like so you don't really cut off or shut down.
Yeah,
you are constantly on that work kind of a mode, because it's there all the time kind of thing.
Exactly.
So you really have to find something else to do.
Yeah. It's like you wake up, you see the laptop, you sleep, you see the laptop, and it's like, well, how do I get out from this cycle, right? And that's one of the issue actually that led to many people kind of having this kind of having a high level of stress, having a high level of anxiety, because they just it was very hard to kind of separate yourself from the working life to the normal life. It's very hard to have the normal personal life, right? So this was a very common issue, I would say. Yeah, even Steven mentioned here, it became like crazy. So I think it's probably saying like that. It became more intense in that sense. Yeah.
Right.
So okay, so let's when we talk about mental health, what do we mean by that, right? Like I mentioned earlier, just as is how it's important for us to take care of our physical health, working out, taking care of our body, right? It's also important for us to take care of our mental health, because every one of us do have mental health, right? But it's the state, whether it's good, in a good state or bad state. So typically our mental health, I would say that it represents or includes three areas, right? One is the emotional side, right? This is when, what's the emotion that you tend to feel? Do you tend to feel a lot of negative emotions, right? This is what you have to ask yourself, right? Some people tend to feel a lot more negative emotions, sadness, maybe feeling more anxious, right? Feeling, a lot of low mood, right? And just not feeling motivated, right? This is the emotions. So what's the emotion that you tend to feel these days, right? Or do you tend to feel or experience more positive emotions? Do you tend to experience, happiness, excitement, kind of looking forward to the day, right? Very optimistic, right? What is the emotions that you tend to feel? The second part is the psychological. Now, when we talk about psychological, that means how do you often, think about yourself, and how do you often think about others, right? Now, this could comprise of the words that you say to yourself, right? Some of us, we have, certain beliefs about ourselves or about the world that we're in, right? And sometimes it can be positive words or negative words, right? Do we tend to criticize ourselves? Do we tend to be quite hard on ourselves? Things like, why am I not good enough? Why do I keep failing, right? Things like this is from the psychology.
I think that happens pretty often, right? I mean, in our local context, I think there are many times people do feel this kind of emotions. Right?
Yeah, I agree.
That they're not up to par. They need to meet a certain standard, especially with social media and what it does.
Nicely said. I agree. Yeah, because social media, of course, it has its pros and the benefits, right? I mean, you see how far it's taken us, but at the same time, it does has its effect. And one of the things that we can't help is the indirect comparison. Yeah, when you see other people's lifestyle, you see the glitz and the glamour of it, right? But you don't see the struggle behind it. So a lot of times, we see the highlights of people's life, but we don't see the struggle in it. But because of that, the highlights that we constantly see, sometimes we can't help but have that comparison. Why am I not at the same level as my friends? My friends is still, has progressing, having this good life that I see, but I'm way, stuck in this rut that I'm in, right? Sometimes we can't help but have this comparison, yeah. And sometimes that can make you feel angry. It can make you feel angry to yourself or angry towards others, yeah. Yeah, and as Adelina mentioned, we can have mixed emotions: happy, sad, angry, all these emotions combined. Yeah, and the third aspect is social well-being, right? Do you tend to socialize with other people, right? Do you tend to mingle with other people, right? Or do you find yourself, constantly having conflicts, issues, in your relationship? some people, they tend to, maybe miscommunication, or they find themselves, it's very hard for them to be with other people because of the, conflicts or arguments that keeps happening. Yeah. For some people, they like to be, they're, very good with connecting with other people. So this is the area of social well-being, right? So these three elements kind of cover up your mental health, basically. I would say that every one of us has these three factors, right? The emotional part, the psychological, and the social well-being. Okay.
And they are interrelated, connected in how
Yes,
they function, right? I mean,
exactly.
how they would manifest itself.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
They're intertwined, they're all connected, right?
Yeah.
So for example, when
Right.
you're emotionally, when you're experiencing all the negative emotions, anger, frustration, sadness, you will find that you will tend to have a lot of negative thoughts, right?
Right.
Whether it's about that person, or whether it's about yourself, right? You find that
Right.
automatically these negative thoughts will come, right? And for
Right.
some people, when they're experiencing that, that will lead them to maybe isolating themselves from other people, not wanting to talk to people, right? Not wanting to respond to messages, right? Not wanting to do the work, right? All these is,
Right.
you can see how it's all connected from the emotion or the psychological, right?
Right. So Dorothy here has said, in her opinion, emotional health is an important part of overall health. People who are emotionally healthy are in control of their thoughts, feelings, emotions, and behaviors. But
Yes, yes,
not
beautifully said.
yeah. But I guess that is the courage to be emotionally healthy. It is a courageous feat, I would say. Uh,
Yes,
it's about
true, true.
mind changing of mind and perception,
Yes,
and
yes.
accepting your current circumstance, I would say.
Yeah, and that takes a lot of courage and a lot of effort. Yeah, this is what people can say, think good, think positive, but it's
Yeah,
more than just that. You have to
exactly.
literally fight yourself these negative thoughts and be, kind of overcome this and telling yourself that, I can get through this. I am
Yeah,
capable of doing this, right? These things are not easy, right? But the more you practice, the more more aware of these emotions, of these thoughts, then
right.
you will find yourself that you're able to kind of, kind of improve on your thinking or your emotions in that sense. Yeah, but
Okay,
definitely this is something that you can definitely work on.
definitely. Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
what else do we have?
yeah, so the next thing is, some people, like I mentioned earlier, some people have this perception that mental health is only for specific people, but as you can see here, right, anyone can be affected, right? So regardless of your gender, regardless of your
Right.
age, regardless of your race or ethnicity or your religion or spirituality. Yeah, the reason why I
Right.
mentioned this is that sometimes, you might be functioning normal in your life, from child, you're growing up, no issue at all, right? And then maybe you transition into your workplace. It might be a toxic working environment, or
Right.
there was some conflicts that you might be having at workplace, right? But that could lead you to start to experience anxiety, that could start to lead you to start experiencing depression, right? So you
Yeah.
don't have to have it from the beginning. Sometimes in the mental health issues can start off from a specific incident, whether it's
So
from
it
your
could be any
childhood.
part. Right.
Yes, it could be from
Could be any.
environmental.
Right.
Yeah. So, or it could be, from internal, meaning that it could be from your, maybe someone having low self-esteem, having a lot of high level of self-doubt, things of that. So it's more for internal aspect.
Right.
Environmental, right? It could be from the work, your, the bosses or your colleagues, the environment that you're working in could lead you
Right.
to experience anxiety, depression, and other issues. Yeah.
Understand.
Right.
Yeah. So there's a lot of factors involved, on how such a condition could be a seed, but if we do not
Yes.
identify it at a certain time, then we're gonna might miss it, and we are most probably
Exactly.
gonna miss it because
Yes.
it's so subtle. Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
that's very true. I mean, studies have shown that people, who go through or who struggle with mental health actually seek help after 5 years. That's an average for after 3 to 5 years, and
Wow.
that shows you that it takes time for people to actually go out and be like, I want to, see a therapist, right? Because like I
Right.
said, because there's so many stigma associated with
Yes.
seeing a therapist, right? As if like it's such a bad thing when it's actually not a bad thing at all, right? It's like just
Yeah.
as how we would see a doctor when we're feeling like we're under the weather, like I'm having some sort of flu, I'll go to check the doctor, right? It's the same thing, right? If we feel that we're struggling with our life right now, whether it's about our work, our
Yes.
relationships, or ourselves, right? It's totally okay to actually see a therapist and to help you work on that, right? Because the role of the
Right.
therapist is to basically help you kind of get through that phase, but in a way
Right.
that is doesn't seem so, burdensome, and kind of, help you to kind of navigate through that.
Right. And
Yeah.
to our audience out there, if you're watching this, I think you should share. I think we what we want to do is get the awareness out that it's okay to talk
Mm-mm.
about your mental health,
Yeah.
and there's nothing wrong should you be feeling a certain way, because you're not alone. And as you can see, um, there are people out there to help you. They're waiting to help you, and I hope that you would share this content up, and let people know that there are them who are out there who care and want to help and see you live that good life that is meant for you.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Very true that Edwin, like you said, it's okay to seek help and not to be
Yes.
ashamed of,
Yes.
seeing a therapist, or just kind of, getting that support in that sense. Yeah. And another thing I just would like to touch on real quick is about, spirituality or religion. Some people have
Right.
this perception that if I'm religious, or, if I have high level of spirituality, then I won't have mental health issues. That's also not true. Yeah, I mean, we see clients who may have a very high spiritual level, or very religious in their religion, right? But they also struggle with mental health issue, right? And so we want to clarify that it's completely different things, right? Because like I said, mental health is about how how you see yourself, how do you see the world, right? And how do you manage with stress, how do you manage with life challenges, right? This is where the mental health is affected. Yeah.
Right.
So if someone is experiencing, don't feel that, so, because sometimes some people tend to blame themselves for having or for experiencing these symptoms, or experiencing the mental health issue in that sense.
Well, we just want to let you know you're not alone.
Yes.
No one person. I believe that every person on this
Mm.
planet is a moment away from a breakdown, but they keep
Yes.
going. So there must be something that someone can help you with. And there's always someone out there ready to help you. But be courageous and ask. And I believe the help is just just a door away. They're just next to you.
Yeah.
So Elena asked, can a 9-year-old watch? I believe so. I
Yeah.
don't think.
No
Yeah.
harm.
It's,
No harm.
yeah.
I mean, we're not talking about anything that is a bit, dangerous in that sense. Is open to all. I mean, I believe that even 9 years old, they I would say is they're much more advanced than we were back then. They know a lot that's
Hopefully.
happening, and
Yeah.
even for them, they also experience these kind of life changes, and they struggle to understand the emotions they're going through and how to go about that. So definitely feel free to share. If for even a 9-year-old or for your kids, no issue at all.
Cool.
All right. So
Yeah.
moving on, right? So this will be the part where, we want to kind of emphasize, why is it so important for us to take care of mental health, right? What happens if we don't take care of our mental health, right? What happens if I just say, stress happens all the time, and so why is it such a big deal, right? Maybe we just need to deal with it, and that's pretty much it, right? But the more we ignore the stress, or if we try to just kind of suppress the emotions, or for example, if you're feeling stress or you're feeling these negative emotions and you keep suppressing it, then what happens, you will notice that it will have a direct effect on us, not the other people. I mean, other people
Yeah.
also, but the most affected is us. Yeah. So you will see that, for some people, you find that they get to feel that, they tend to get stomach problem. You find yourself getting migraines. You find yourself getting a lot of muscle tension. Yeah. And this is because you will find yourself because of the high level of stress or mental health issues. When I say mental health issues, can be anxiety. You might be feeling high level of anxiety, right? Anxiety is something that we all experience. It's not weird. Okay. So if you're, if you're having a job interview and you're going to for an examination and you start to feel this
Right.
palpitation, you start to have this, worry, you start to feel anxious, right? This is
Right.
normal. It's not weird for you to experience it. Yeah. But sometimes when it starts to become consistent, when it becomes
Mm.
regular, right, to the point where you start to, not be able to do things that you normally do, right, that's when you have to ask yourself, okay, why am I feeling this so often, right?
Right.
Why am I so worried about this, right? This is kind of the signs that you kind of have to look at. Yeah. So the
Okay.
reason why you kind of have to kind of take care of that, right, because as you can see, it affects how we think, how we feel, and how we cope with life, right? And that's, again, the emphasis is whatever life throws at you, whether it's good or bad, right? Normally it's the bad stuff, the negative things that happen, right? That's when our mental health is mostly affected in a negative way, right? But let's say if you have a good mental health, meaning you understand when you're triggered, you understand what causes you to feel stressed, or you know when you're feeling angry, what's causing you to feel the anger, right? Or that sadness, right? Then you're able to manage your state or the mental health, right? And so the stronger or the better your mental health is, right, then you will notice that you will be able to become more resilient. So you find yourself, becoming resilient. When we say resilient, that means that after any kind of hardship or any difficulty, you can bounce back. Yeah, I mean, we encounter many failures, right? I mean, any forms of failures, right? And when it happens, right, it's how quick you're able to bounce back. And so when you have a good level or a good state of mental health, you find yourself that you're able to quickly bounce back to, you're able to pick yourself up and continue and move forward. This is part of resilience. The second part is you'll find that you'll be able to handle stress, right? So again, like I said, that takes skill to be able to learn to deal with stress, right? And then the other part, you will find yourself that you will be able to relate to others, right? Because you've experienced it yourself, or you know what it's like to, go through that anxiety or that stress, right? So you're able to relate to other people, and through that you're able to make better choices, right? You'll find yourself, if you notice, for the audience here, that if you're not in a good state, meaning that if you're feeling stressed or if you're feeling sad, you're feeling angry, the choices that you make, right, sometimes might not be the best choices. And sometimes the choices you might end up regretting, like, I shouldn't have said that, I shouldn't have acted in that way, right? But because I was so emotional at the time, or I was so under pressure, I just couldn't think, right? And so when you have a good state of mental health, you're able to make better choices. Yeah. So this is why it is important for us to take care of the mental health. So this is pretty much from, Sorry, what were you saying, Edwin?
No, it's quite a bit. It's quite a bit. We've come quite a bit into the show, and I guess there is a importance to talk about this because it does affect our daily lives. It's the little things that we don't see that could eventually grow into something bigger, and it's good to learn how to identify these things. And thank you once again, Sarah, for being part of this, and Andrea. So now that we've covered why mental health is important, is there something else that we need to know to move on and to be more aware of why this is important?
Right. So this is when I'll pass the ball to my colleague Andrea. So she will cover more on, stress. Like I mentioned earlier, one of the common factors for those who are struggling with mental health issues is stress. Yeah. So she will explain more about, what is stress in that sense, and then kind of what are the symptoms to look out for, what are the symptoms to know if I'm experiencing it, or if my friends, my family are experiencing, difficulty in the mental health in that sense. Yeah. So we have to know what kind of signs to look out for. So then once we see those signs, we know what we can do to kind of deal with it or overcome it in that sense. Yeah. So I'll pass the quote to you, Andrea.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, so moving on to stress. I think this is something that is very, it's not unknown to us. Like, who here hasn't felt stressed?
I don't think anyone is immune to it.
I agree. I don't think anyone is immune to it.
I think there's no immunity for that.
Probably not. I think it also probably it's also difficult for us to develop immunity because let's say you are facing work stress. Maybe you have been able to learn some techniques, you manage this stress, but then comes along another incident in your life that causes a new stress. So it's kind of like, okay, you have to keep adapting to it. Yes. So yeah, at any point, maybe your coping strategies, maybe you find that you're not able to cope with the stress as well. And then that's when, if you need help, you can always reach out to us also. So like we are here to help you with that stress. And then, so about stress, like maybe you can also comment what are some of the things that would make you stressed. Like there are so many sources, so many reasons that could make us feel stressed, like work being probably one of the most common for people in the working age.
Yeah, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, work would be the number one, I think. You've got family, you've got finances, You've got livelihood that you need to think about. There's just so many things happening in life, and especially in the last 2 years, everything was amplified. Suddenly,
Yes.
you're put in a bubble, and everything is being, became bigger than life itself.
It was.
Maybe we can hear from the audience. I mean, what makes you stressful?
Yeah, that's true.
Even kids, like, do you remember when you were a kid, what were some of the things that you used to stress about?
I guess not getting the toy I wanted. Right. Could we do one question? Would that be okay?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So there is a question here from Dorothy asking, what steps should a person take to consider to improve his or her emotional health better in the current situation or trend we are in? This would really, maybe we can look at it later.
Yeah, I think we'll also touch on some tips in the later part.
We've got more tips coming up.
Yeah.
So, Dorothy, thank you for your question. We'll come back at it. Please hang in there. We've got your question covered. It's coming soon. Yeah.
Yes.
Do you have any other questions apart from that? Or are you
there's one more actually. MH is frequently stigmatized among various communities and thought as taboo. What is your advice to help change perceptions among these communities so that mental health can be discussed openly and addressed? It's a very good question.
It's a very good question. Yeah. Maybe Andrea, you want to kind of address the questions?
I think it was, in my opinion, it also comes from various different people working together. Like the other day when I was in the car, there was actually a short radio advertisement, and then they were also talking about the importance of mental health. I guess a few years back, it's not exactly something that you would hear on the radio because of what was considered as a taboo. Not many people were talking about it. So I was pleasantly surprised that they mentioned that mental health was as important as physical health. So for the people listening in, they might kind of start to register that, okay, I need to take better care of my mental health, or they would have the thought is okay, what is mental health exactly? Maybe I can look up more into it. Do I need this? Is my mental health good or something like that? So it's one of the things that could get it started. I mean, besides what we try to guide people in terms of from the mental health community, but also from the other networks.
Right. So, Kevin, I hope you've got your question addressed.
I think one more thing I'd like to just add is that I think one of the, like you mentioned, what is the advice to help change the perception, right, among the community, and one of the ways to do that is what we're doing right now, is to actually start the conversation, because this is what we call the hard conversation to talk about, and a lot of time people don't want to be stigmatized, or they don't want to be associated with these terms, whether it's anxiety, whether it's depression or something else, right? Because of the worry of what will people think of me, what will my boss think of me, what will my colleagues think of me, right? Things of that sort, right? So when we have these conversation, right, this is how we kind of overcome that stigmatized, because we're trying to break that stigma by saying that it's all right for you to talk about it, and it's okay to see a therapist, and it's okay to seek support, right? And through that, people will become less, kind of stigmatized and realize that, oh, all right, this is okay. But this is a lot of work from our side to kind of, normalize this to the level where people feel, it's fine.
So I guess we got the ball. I mean, we got the whole fire started on talking about this topic, and we hope to burn down this taboo as much as possible. That people be more open to speak of mental health and emotional well-being topics. It's difficult, but once you start, healing is on the way, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Can we take one more question?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So here's, how does physical health affect one's emotional health?
Sarah, do you want to take this?
Okay. All right. So for this one, I would say, it's a very good question. Thank you for asking, Dorothy. So how does physical health affect one's emotional health? I would say that, obviously, when you're, let's say you're physically unhealthy, or what we say, not necessarily unhealthy, but, for some people, it could be that they might have a physical health issue, right? Just a general health issue that they might be having, right? For other people, it could be more towards, the weight aspect, weight gain, not being able to work out as much, or just not having that, healthy routine of, going to the gym, or having that, workout routine, right? Which obviously affect the health, right? But when we talk about physical health, there's many components to that. One is the physical aspect of, the state that you're in, like the physical health in terms of the condition of your body, the condition of, your level of sugar, your level of blood pressure, things of that sort. Or it could be of your sleep, right? For example, physical health also includes the sleep, right? How, do you tend to get like sleeping problems, right? Or do you tend to get a lot of palpitation or things of that sort? So I would say, of course, if you have a good physical health, generally speaking, it leads to having a good emotional health, right? And one of the ways that, well, if I think this is something that a lot of people do talk about, is that's why you see the emphasis of working out, right? Doing physical exercise. It doesn't have to be heavy. You don't have to have a target of losing weight or of certain weight, right? I mean, it's good if you want to get fit, you want to lose certain weight, that's fine. But it can be those very small steps to kind of increase the emotional health. So you will see some people, for those who they find themselves that if they work out, for example, 20 minutes a day, or they have that, or the 25 minutes walk or half an hour walk, right? They find that the emotionally, they find themselves feeling, experiencing more, experience positive emotions. So they tend to feel more excitement, they feel more relaxed. This is one of the ways that it helps, right? Because our bodies produces, cortisol and, other different hormones in our body, which affects our emotional health. So, of course, when you're feeling stress, it produces, hormones that triggers your body to have this palpitation, and, this kind of the physiological, what we call this kind of this, what's the word? It's kind of, those emotions when it's I forgot the term right now, but it's that it's when you're what's the term, I forgot, but it's okay. It's basically, it triggers that the, like, when someone, chucks something at you, like your body reacts immediately. Yeah, so that is one of the way that the physical health is affected. But if you take care of your physical health, like I said, working out, taking care of your food, taking care of your sleep, right, then you will find yourself that emotional health is in a much more better state. So I hope that addressed your questions roughly.
Yeah. Hope that's good for you, Dorothy. Hope the question was answered. So there is an importance for us to move. Our physical health is as important as our emotional health. Stay tuned with us, as our next topic coming in 2 weeks is fitness. So it would be something that would interest you as well. Maybe we can move on with the slides and then come back to a few other questions later.
Okay. So just now when we were talking about stress, I think even in the comments, people were talking about some of the reasons why they feel stressed, and then we can see there are different reasons for people to feel stressed. And I think it's also important to know that, okay, this thing which is not stressful for me is probably stressful for somebody else. I did read like an analogy online. It's like you're just as likely to drown in like 20 feet of water as you are in 2 feet of water. So so people have different thresholds of stress, and then it's something that we should also try to empathize with. Like, just because it's not stressful for you doesn't mean that other people don't find it stressful. So I'm not sure if you or anyone you know has ever said to you, it's like, oh, I'm feeling so stressed lately, but then the response they got with, I'm also stressed. It's like, you tell me you're stressed, but I'm so stressed. And then they might unintentionally proceed to dismiss your concerns. And then it's like, so what if you're stressed? Everyone is stressed right now.
I mean, that's pretty common, right? I mean, it happens very commonly.
So I think, if, let's say, one of also the ways that we want to encourage people to talk about their mental health is to, if you have the ability, if you're able to listen to them, like, just ask them, active listening. Try to be understanding, and then when they're talking, just listen to them. Why are they stressed? If you feel like sharing, you can also have like a sharing session, share your own stresses. Those are also one of the ways that you can kind of like feel a little better after you talk.
Right. So we need to socialize in that sense as well. I mean, we need to be able to open up and talk to one another, family or friends, or among spouses as well. I mean, you should be able to talk to each other, and because everyone is living a life and everyone is on their own journey as well, and it does have a weight on us normally, either way, I guess.
True.
Yeah. So
I also wanted to share is like for like the stress. I did have a client. Very good. I did have one client last time. Like she
okay,
was working in a very high pressure kind of work environment, which is probably what a lot of people might be might be able to relate to. Like her boss gives her a lot of pressure. Sometimes there are even some workplace politics going on. So
right,
maybe at the time she also felt that she didn't have people that she can go to for like emotional support to talk about these things. So before this, she was kind of like you can call her resilient. Like she had a very active school life. She used to be in so many competitions, debate clubs, and all this. But then when she went to the workplace for the first probably 1 or 2 years, she was still coping. It was a bit difficult, but she was still coping. But then after that, she suddenly started feeling a lot of anxiety for long periods of time, and eventually it developed into kind of like to very clinical level. So she was diagnosed with an anxiety disorder. So not all stress, if not handled well, would lead to a mental disorder, but it can lead to poor mental health, which is
right,
our transition to the next slide. How to know if you have poor mental health? Yeah, because
right,
we are usually in a lot of stress, especially with the recent changes and everything. Like now, before this, you were adapting to the MCO and things like that, and then now after the restrictions have been lifted, kind of like also adapting. Some people still working from home, some people have to travel, kind of like getting
yes,
used to that kind of changes again. So in a state of prolonged stress, sometimes we don't realize that we are stressed. We are just so tensed all the time.
right,
But
right,
like what happened with my client, it is important for us to know when we are stressed, know when our mental health is probably not as good as it's supposed to be. So these are
right,
some of the signs that you can look out for, like maybe in yourself or even people close to you. If you feel that some of the signs applies to them, maybe it's the time to check up on them, or maybe kind of like link them with sources that could help them.
help
So
them, yeah,
yes, so they don't have to have all of these signs, but if you think that some of these are kind of like either you relate to a lot of them or maybe some of them severely, then you can kind of
right,
also check up.
right.
So
We've got a
speak of,
question here, if you
sorry.
don't mind. I think this relates to this. Is there a quick way to measure stress levels for individuals to determine if they need professional help?
Yeah, there is. Sorry, Andrea, you want to address that question?
Yeah,
Or should
No,
I?
go ahead.
Okay, so
okay,
regarding the question here, it's a very good question as well, Robert. Thank you for asking. So yes, there is a way that we can kind of quickly measure the stress level to determine if they need to seek professional help, or if it's just a general issue that they can deal with. And normally, what we do is we run a mental health screening. So that means that we have a kind of like a brief consultation, or just kind of like a brief mental health screening where we check your level of stress, your level of anxiety, and level of depression as well. So that's where we kind of know where's your level of stress in that sense. So
okay.
this is what I
So
mean. This is something you can reach out to any centers, psychological centers or clinics. Normally a hospital is a bit. Hospital you can, but if you want to have a quick, just a very brief health screening, right? You can just approach any of the psychological centers and ask them. I would like to go for a mental health screening. So that's where they check. They'll run a very brief assessment where they will check your level of stress, and then from there you will know if you're experiencing high level of stress, anxiety, or depression, and from there you have a much more clear idea from that. So I hope that kind of addressed the question there.
So, Mr. Robert, I hope you've got your question answered. Thank you, Sarah. We'll just take one more question.
All right.
Yeah, maybe we can do this one. Relating to, from Dorothy as well, relating to my question just now, how the person can overcome emotional issues. Was it by taking medication, continuous counseling sessions, or other ways to handle the emotional health well? I think this is relating to the question earlier on what steps a person can consider to improve his or her emotional health better in the current situation or trend that we are in.
Would you like to address this question, Andrew, or
Sure. Yeah. I think we can get a bit into it, like the difference between the clinical psychologists and psychiatrists and counselors. So, like for us as clinical psychologists, we do see cases that involve like more clinical levels of disorders, like let's say depression, anxiety, those that we can also diagnose these disorders. Psychiatrists also do the same thing, but with the added step that they are able, like they can prescribe medications. So let's say that if you need medication, we can refer you to a psychiatrist. We also work closely with them for these kind of things. But on the question whether or not you need to take medication for that issue, it would be different from case to case. Like some people, they might be able to get better with just like, let's say, therapy sessions, either with the clinical psychologist or maybe with the counselors, and added with their own efforts at home. Like we can teach you some tips and tricks on how to handle your emotions, and then you can keep practicing them at home. And then when you come back to the session, we can continue discussing further. But for some people, maybe like if their depression or anxiety is very severe, they are not able to practice the tips, like they don't find it as helpful. So some medication might be able to help, because when the symptoms are reduced, let's say they are no longer feeling as depressed, they're no longer feeling as anxious, they are better able to practice the tips or take the steps to manage their emotional health. And then slowly, when they are ready to get off the medication, then that's when they don't need to take the medication anymore. But again, this varies from case to case.
Right.
So I hope that answers your question, Dorothy.
Yeah. Thank you, Dorothy, for your question. Yeah, we can just complete this, and then we got one more question. Maybe we finish this, and then we'll take that question.
Okay.
Keep your questions coming in, people. We will answer them as much as we can. We'd love to engage with you. I just want you to know that we are here to journey with you, and we want you to know that it is pivotal that you speak about this and pass the word around, that more people can be brought to awareness about this topic. Yeah, Andrea, it's back to you.
Thank you. I think it's also good that so many people have this many questions to ask. It means that they are curious, they want to know more about this topic, which is good.
Yeah.
Okay, so about the poor signs of poor mental health. So I think Sarah has mentioned a few before when she was also talking earlier. So like sleep changes, appetite changes, those are probably one of the things that you would notice, like you have trouble falling asleep, you have trouble staying asleep. I do hear about this from some of my clients as well. So like their sleep quality is poor, their appetite also changes. So someone might feel like they don't have any appetite, they are unable to eat, or some people, they get really hungry and then they would eat more than usual. So this kind of changes. Mood changes is also probably very noticeable by other people. Maybe they get angry more easily, they get very agitated, being withdrawn, like they are not as engaged in social activities. Like maybe before, when you ajak them for a mamak session, they'll be like, okay, let's go. But then suddenly they'll be like, I don't think I want to go today. And then it becomes like a few weeks that they are not joining. But then if people are more introverted, then it's probably just they would prefer some alone time. So not necessarily that it is it is a warning sign. drop
Yeah,
in
yeah,
functioning in terms of their ability to function in daily life. Like, let's say their work functioning, they are making a lot of mistakes at work. They are not able to meet deadlines. Same with schoolwork. Um, Problems thinking in terms of the concentration, paying attention, like they seem a bit spacing out. They're not, less able to follow conversation, less able to, maybe during meetings, they're not paying attention to the content. Increased sensitivity in terms of like your senses, to lights, to sounds. Maybe when you go out to a shopping mall, there's a lot of like stimuli going on, a lot of people walking around, a lot of noises.
yeah.
So maybe you find yourself getting like very worked up, very agitated in those kind of situations. Apathy, like a loss of interest. Previously, maybe you enjoyed certain games, certain hobbies, and then suddenly you just don't feel like doing them anymore. Even the TV show that
Okay,
you really look forward to last time, you're not as interested to watch it. Disconnected from people, disconnected from yourself. You feel maybe that you are not, like you are very foreign to yourself. You feel very detached. Certain kinds of illogical thinking, like maybe,
right.
like Sarah said, that you have some very negative thoughts, or even thoughts that are not true, like, oh, I'm just the worst person in the world.
Yeah,
Nervousness,
yeah, right.
uh, unusual or uncharacteristic behaviors, like things that previously you know this person doesn't do. Like maybe they started having like certain rituals, like they are behaving in certain ways that people might find odd, or it's just that out of character for this person. So these are some
Okay,
of the signs that you can look out for, in yourself or in other people, if they probably have,
right,
or maybe they need some mental help.
right. So, these are just telltale signs. These are just signs that would trigger the question if maybe we need to dive in deeper for this particular person. But
Mm.
I do hope that we are sharp enough to identify these things. I mean, if it's family, we would know, colleagues, that we don't know what they're going through, but there could be signs like this that you could help them with, and I hope that this will help you identify and help the people around us, right? So, yeah, yeah, good stuff. So we've got our tips now. So these are little
Yes.
hacks that we can do to manage our mental health, I guess.
Yes, mental health hacks.
Yeah, some practical tips.
Right, right. So my dearly beloved audience, Malaysia, let's learn these tips, and maybe we can practice it and teach it to our family as well, because we don't know who needs what when. And I let's see how we can help the community around us. Start with the family, and move on. Keep going forward. Yeah. So
That's true.
So the first one, deep breathing, probably not too unfamiliar thing for most people. And also as clinical psychologists, like this is one of the first things that we teach to the clients, because it's quite easy to learn, and we can practice it during the session. They can also practice it at home, even in the car and things like that. So there are, actually a lot of different kinds of deep breathing exercises. Like for example, like the simple deep breathing. So like you just breathe in slowly, and then you hold it for a few seconds, and then you exhale, and then you can hold it for a few seconds. So with the amazing technology that we have now, it is, you can actually find like this kind of guides online. You can even find it on YouTube. Sometimes they will accompany it with some soothing background music if that is what helps you relax. So
right,
you can also, because there's so many different kinds of deep breathing exercises, so you can try to find a rhythm that could work for you. Like either it could be belly breathing, like mostly inhaling and then engaging your diaphragm, or box breathing, which is, you breathe in from using the count of 4, and then you hold your breath for 4 counts. You exhale for
right.
4 counts, and then you keep your lungs empty for 4 counts. So before you breathe in again, and then you just repeat that cycle. Uh,
Wow.
but this kind of tips is not exactly say it works for everyone in every situation.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right.
Mm. But of course, there's also no harm in trying. And then I do have also people coming to me and saying that I tried deep breathing, but deep breathing doesn't work. And usually it's because they tried to practice it. These people, they might have anxiety. So when people actually are in a state of like very heightened anxiety, they are really anxious, maybe they're even in a state of panic, then deep breathing is actually not suitable for this kind of people. So there are a few reasons for this because when you try to focus on your breathing, it becomes that you notice how erratic your breathing is. And then it can be counter-effective because they'll be like, oh my God, I'm not breathing, I'm not breathing well, something might be wrong with me. So it can lead to even more panic. And also because their breathing was not deep enough before this, a sudden intake of oxygen might make them feel like maybe dizzy or things like that. So in that kind of situation, what would be better for them is to focus on trying to slow down their breath. You do not have to change it very drastically, but you just maybe, if you're breathing very rapidly, maybe you can try increasing it by like just half a second. Just slowly try to breathe in as slowly as you can and exhale. You don't need to force yourself to breathe in deeply. And then when they are in a calmer state, when they feel a bit more relaxed, then they can practice the deep breathing.
Okay. Nice.
Okay, so the second one is visualization or imagery exercise. Again, these are things that you can actually find on YouTube. They come with a guide. Some people also call this guided imagery because a person is supposed to read from a script of like what you should imagine in your mind as you're doing the exercise. So on YouTube, there are things like if you look up leaves on the stream or hot springs relaxation, these are some of the examples. They would tell you, okay, to be in a relaxed state, like for leaves on the spring, like very briefly, is you imagine that you are by a stream, the water is flowing, there are leaves on it, and then as each leaf passes by, you imagine yourself like placing your thoughts or whatever troubles that you have on the leaf, and then just watch it float by. So that is one of it. And then the aim is it could be relaxation. It could be just to, not just for your mind, but also for your body. Because there are certain guided imagery that would tell you, okay, to move from a body part to a different body part, like first focus on your hands, like imagine the stress releasing from your hands, your muscles are gradually relaxing. So by suggesting that they are in a relaxed state, they are more likely to be in a relaxed state. So that's kind of like the logic behind guided imagery.
Right.
Okay. So now the third one is problem-focused coping. So there are different types of coping. The first two are more towards emotional coping. So like trying to address your emotional state. And then for problem-focused coping, we try to address let's say the trigger of the stress or the anxiety. So like targeting stress in practical ways. Like if you are feeling stressed because of a project, you can try a lot of different ways to calm your stress, to calm your anxiety, and it could be very effective. But then when you come back to the project, it might still trigger the stress until, let's say, the project is done. So if you don't do the project, then your stress would kind of like just always be there. So when you target problem focused coping, it's also something that we can work together with the clients. So be it if they need some help with their time management skills, their problem solving skills, and then these are things that we can work with them. Even having a to-do list, like if some people, they might have difficulty organizing their tasks, we can try to come up with like a good to-do list system with them, or even breaking down tasks. Like sometimes people would feel very overwhelmed, especially if maybe they're in a state of poor mental health. Even cooking, cleaning could be something that is very stressful for them. So we do try to teach them how to break down the task, maybe start with the easiest one, then working their way up, taking breaks and all that. So to help them be able to tackle the problem that is causing them stress.
Right. Cool. So we've got 3 tips here, and I believe there's more. Do we have more? More hacks?
Yes, we have 3 last final tips.
We got 3 final tips. Okay. All right.
Yes. Okay, so because of time, because I don't want to take up too much time, and I know it's nighttime,
Right.
so some people might be feeling a bit sleepy,
Yeah.
right? So I'll go on this very briefly, yeah. And so
Sure.
if anyone has any questions, we can address them at the
Yeah.
end
I
of it.
think we do have a couple of questions. Maybe we will get to the questions after these
Yeah,
tips.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine. All right.
Yeah.
So as Andrea mentioned earlier, right, these are some of the tips that you can try to apply now. In terms of whatever stress or issues that you're currently experiencing, you can try these ones out, right? For the following ones, the fourth tip I can provide is kind of identifying where is your stress coming out. Right now, this seems very simple, but why I focus on this point is because sometimes you might be stressed, right? But there might be many factors that's contributing to your stress level, right? And the question is, you
Yeah.
have to ask yourself: is your stress coming from work? Right? Is it work that's making you feel stressed? Is it the working environment? Is it the workload, or you're just having trouble with dealing with your boss or management in that sense, right? Or is the stress coming from relationships? Are you having problems at home? Are you having problems with your family? Are you having problems in marriage? Right? That
Right.
could be the one that's adding to your stress, right? Or is it more of internal? Right? When we say internal, it's more on the maybe you're experiencing low self-esteem. Maybe you're experiencing a lot of negative thoughts about yourself, right? To the point where you might start to have a lot of self-doubt, or you start to feel that you're incompetent, right? So these are the things that you have to ask yourself: where is your stress coming from? Because like I said, everyone has different triggers, right? Maybe I might be stressed from work, right? The workload might be very heavy and I'm just
Right.
having a lot of stress that's coming from there mainly, right? Another person, maybe my friend, could be having stress that's mainly from family, right? It's just family
Right.
issues that's just very persistent, that's causing her to feel stressed, right? So this is what you have to ask yourself: where is your stress coming from? And if you find that it's very hard for you to narrow down, right, you can just rate it. This is a tip that I say, is to you can rate according to percentage. So let's say out of 100%, how much would you rate your work stress? So when you say, okay, about
Right.
20%, if I talk about social stress, do you have trouble with the relationships in general? You might say, no, not really, maybe about 10%. Yeah. But maybe you might say, okay, I'm actually 80% is actually for myself, my high expectation, my standard that I put myself, that is causing me to have these self-doubt, right? So
Right.
again, that could be one of the tips that you can try to kind of help you to identify what's the highest level of stress, or what's the factor that's causing you to feel the most stress, right? Because normally amongst the stress, there is one specific factor that's causing you to feel the most stress, and that's the one that you have to identify first. Yeah. Okay.
Nice. Nice.
So then moving forward is the fifth one. Oh, hold on. I think the slide's going a bit off here. So the fifth slide is all right. Thank you, Adrian. All right. The
Yeah.
fifth slide
No
is
worries.
the fifth tip is find your emotional outlet, right? So you need to know yourself, right? When you feel emotion, like when you tend to feel emotional, right? Whether it's when you tend to get angry, when you feel sad, how do you deal with it? Okay. For some people, when they get angry, they just lash out, right? They just can't help it, but they lash out, right? For some
Yeah.
people, they take it out on others, right? Maybe you had a very stressful day. Maybe you got scolded by your boss or from your manager, right? You come back home and then you take it out on your family. It's not like you wanted to take it out on them, but sometimes you can't
Right.
help it. But certain things can trigger off, right? So it could be, that's some people. That's how they release the emotion, right? For other people,
Right.
it could be crying, right? You're feeling stressed and then you just cry. That's how you let out this emotion. Okay. For some people, they shout, they get, that's how they just vent out. That's one way.
Yeah.
Okay. It can be healthy or unhealthy. Again, we're not here to say whether it's unhealthy or not. That's a different topic in of itself.
Yeah.
But here we want to say that you have to know when you feel upset or when you experience this emotion, especially if it's negative, right? Sadness, anger, frustration. How do you cope with it? How do what's the way that you can actually help release those emotions? Okay, because
Okay.
you need to know how to release those emotions. Because for some people, they suppress. Like for example, I'm feeling sad, I just
Right.
suppress it. Meaning I tell
And
myself
it's
it's not
important to
real.
release them.
Yes, it's important to release them, because then
Right.
it will have I would say, a physical effect on your body physically and
Okay.
mentally or psychologically. Yeah. So
Right.
this is why we
Right.
say that you need to know how to deal or at least release those negative emotions, right? Because
Right.
we are humans, we will experience it whether we like it or not. But the question is, how do we deal with that emotion? Yeah. So for example,
Right.
you know, if you find yourself that, again, when it comes to emotional, finding your emotional outlet, some people, I would say, generally speaking, some people prefer a more private way. They don't like to tell people that they're going through
Yeah.
some, you know, a hardship or trouble, right? So
Right.
in that case, if you feel like you're more of a private person, you wouldn't want to disclose to other people, right? Maybe some of the ways that you could do is, for some people, journaling. Right? You can get a book or, you know, journal your emotions. For some people,
Yeah.
they might feel like journaling is a bit too much. So if you feel like it's a bit too much, you know, you can just get a paper. I mean, you don't want to think about it so much. You just get a paper, and then just get a pen or pencil, and then just write down what you're feeling, what you're thinking at that time.
Yes.
Meaning, no, you don't have to, you know, have the most beautiful writing in the most fanciest book, and you know, have it
Yeah.
all
I
written
that's true.
nicely.
That's true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because sometimes we think about
Something that I used to do,
mm,
something that I used to do would be, I used to take a piece of paper, A4 paper, fold it in half. On one side is a question mark, the other side is a candle. So the question mark are my questions, and the
mm,
candle is what I know. So when you
nice.
see, I guess, when you see it, it becomes clear to you what you need to do, and where you are exactly. So like you said, writing helps, and it doesn't
Yes.
really matter how good your writing is. You just need to scribble it down
Yeah,
somewhere.
just scribble it out. And like I
Yeah.
said, no filter, right?
Yeah.
Whatever the
Yeah.
words that's coming out, just write it
Yeah.
down, right?
True.
And
Very true.
surprisingly, you'll find yourself like what you mentioned, Edwin. You find a sense of relief. Yeah, you find
Yes.
yourself, oh,
Yes.
if like I took it out, I took out those
Yeah.
emotions, those frustration out, right?
True. I
And
mean,
you,
the load off your shoulder, it's
yes,
gone.
yes. And at the same time, for some people, it helps them to see, oh, what actually happened or what caused them to feel that way. Or there's certain patterns of the thought, oh, I actually, this happened, this caused me to
Right.
feel A, B, C, D, right? But it helps
Correct.
you to find, I would say, more awareness or insight about
Yeah.
yourself, about, what you
Yes.
think and why you felt it. So you might realize, oh, I was triggered by, what my mom said, or I was triggered by what my wife said.
Yeah.
From there you will know. Yeah. So
True.
this is one.
True.
So those more
Yeah.
for the private aspect. And if you, let's say, if you
Yeah.
don't have someone or friends or family that you can talk to, right? You, again, a third person can be a therapist, right? Someone that is
Yeah.
you can speak to openly, but without others knowing your issue. Okay, that's one
Yeah.
way. If for people that's more socialized, they like to talk to people, they like to mingle with people, right? One of the ways that help is by venting out. So maybe calling a
Right.
friend, your best friend, or calling your family members, right? And then just venting out your emotions to them. That's one way as well. So for some people,
Yes.
they like to do that. And I noticed for men, sometimes they don't really like to talk about it. So sometimes they're just like, let me just go have a coffee or tea with my friend and just chill,
Yeah.
right? That's
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
another way, right? It's okay. You don't
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
necessarily talk about it, but at least that's one way of you to kind of release that negative emotion, right?
Right.
Other ways is you can do something physical. So maybe you can take a walk outside, or you can do a quick running. Like for some people,
Right.
they when they feel stressed, they find that if they do certain sports, it helps them. So when they go out for a quick run or when they go for a walk, they find themselves feeling that it helps them emotionally to deal with it.
Right.
So these are some of the tips that you can do. I mean, you see yourself which category you fall into, and you can apply these.
Right.
And then the last one is make time for self-care, right? When we talk about self-care, sometimes we have this perception that is for female, or it's like this, this idea of, yeah, you go to the spa, have fun, and
A
that's pretty
me
much
time. Me
self-care.
time.
Yeah, the me time.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
some people might feel like, oh, maybe I'm a bit selfish if I spend me time, because I have so many commitment. I have my family, I have my kids, or my
Right.
responsibility. I just don't have time for me time, right?
Yeah.
Now, this part is very important, especially I would say in the Asian culture.
Right.
Everything is a priority except ourselves. Yeah,
Yeah.
and the issue with that is that if you don't find our time for self-care, we'll find that we'll get burnt out. And this is what a lot of people are experiencing right now. Feeling burnt
Yeah.
out, you start to feel demotivated, you start to feel like, I don't want to do work, I don't want to go to the office, right? I know I have
Yeah.
these urgent tasks that I have to deal with, but I just
Yeah.
can't get myself to do it, right? And normally
Right.
it could be signs of burnout. You might be experiencing burnout, yeah? And
Right.
burnout is normally because when you don't have time for self-care, right? And when we talk about self-care, it could be anything that can help you to feel relaxed or happy, right? That means that's increasing your positive emotions. That gets you to feel excited. It gets you to feel, happy. It gets you to feel like, oh, it's, I'm enjoying this moment, right? Whatever that activity is, the main thing is you're able to slot time for it. Yeah. And so, like I said, it can be something luxury or it can be very simple acts. So for some people, it could be, for example, going to bed earlier. So maybe normally you sleep at 12 midnight because of, responsibility aspect. So you tell yourself, you know what, I'm going to take care of myself, or I'm going to try to take care of, make more time for self-care. So I'm going to sleep early. I'm going to sleep at 10 p.m. tonight. That is a form of self-care. Or if you tell yourself, you know what, I'm going to have, a coffee, a coffee in the morning. This is my time. When I get up in the morning, this is me time. I'm not going to check my phone. I'm not going to attend my emails. This is me time, right? That's fine. Right, whatever the slot is, normally I suggest if you find that you don't have time or you find that it's very hard for you to make time, right, just tell yourself, okay, I'll start with 10 minutes in the morning, right? Just your time, right? And normally it's nice if you could start at the beginning of the day so that you don't feel overwhelmed when you just get up and all these commitments that you might have or responsibility. So you can just start telling yourself, okay, I'll force myself to, if you can't bring yourself to start, just 10 minutes. If it's really hard, tell yourself 5 minutes. That's a good tip. Like 5 minutes, just tell yourself. You can even put a timer. Once it's done, you're done for the me time in that sense.
Leroy says this: if you don't make time for your wellness, you'll be forced to make time for your illness.
Very powerful word, that Leroy. I agree. Yeah, and like what people say, wealth, health is wealth, and it's very true, right? Otherwise, you will end up paying money to maintain a good health, which is let's avoid that. Let's what we say, prevention is better than cure.
Daniel Ashraf says, "Yep, that's what we refer as me time."
Exactly, Daniel. I agree. That's what me time. You can call it self-care or me time. Both works. So this is pretty much the tips that I will share. So I hope that for the audience here, you can try to apply these tips from what I shared and Andrea, and hopefully those will help you to kind of improve that mental health state.
Thank you very much. I just want to inform the audience that we are in collaboration for this topic. Sakina Medicare and the Healthy Rojak is in collaboration for this topic. So this is just the beginning, and we've got a whole lot of other topics coming up in the future. What we're going to do is there are some other sites that you can reach out to. This is Sakina's contact details. You can reach them at this number, and they've also given us a few other psychology clinics or care clinics, helplines that you can get in touch with. So this would be helpful. We want to thank them for sharing this information with us. And what we're going to do now is we're going to probably take a few questions. Q&A. It's Q&A time. There is a question here from Kevin. What forms of psychological first aid can we learn to help ourselves and others, and where can we equip ourselves?
That's a very good question as well, from Kevin. I would say that there is psychological first aid workshop that is actually provided by centers, for private psychological centers. So you can look out, maybe you can Google and see like first psychological first aid, right? Google is like the first person think of, right? But honestly speaking, I would say that if you want to kind of really have a very in-depth understanding, or a better understanding on psychological first aid, what you can do to actually help yourself, I would definitely recommend attending psychological first aid. And they have it's provided in psychological centers, and you can ask them if they provide that. That's one. Sometimes there are certain centers that provide for free, so you kind of have to kind of sift through if there are free ones. But so far, mostly it's kind of paid. But again, like I said, it's a kind of a 1 day, 2 day workshop where they will really prep you on, what's the signs to look out for, what's the practical tips you can do to work on yourself, right? In terms of psychological aid or for those around you. This is one way. The second is when you say what we can equip ourselves, to know in terms of psychological first aid. I would say that pretty much what we shared here tonight, with from Andrea and myself, this is pretty much, I would say, the first step to, psychological first aid. And because you need to know, what's the sign, understand what is mental health, what's the sign to look out for, what's a good mental health state and what's a poor mental health state, right? Why is it important? And how do we go about that? And if you notice, one of the themes that we focus on is identifying what's the problem that you're experiencing, because you need to know the problem in order for you to overcome or deal with the issue, right? And for those that might not be familiar or unsure what's causing them to feel that way, that's fine, right? This is still something that you can still I would say that this is where you can see your therapist, a third party, to help you identify, what those reasons or those factors could be. Yeah, you don't have to go through it by yourself. Like I said, there's the help is there, and this is, for example, you can reach out to any therapist out there, whether it's counselors or clinical psychologists, right? And this is where we can help you in dealing with that. I hope that clarifies or answers the questions, Kevin.
Yeah. Thank you, Kevin, for your question. Here we've got Gerald Fernandez saying emotional mental health is key to one's wellness for sure. Over here, it is still a taboo. People should be more open, and it's okay to seek help. Sessions like this is excellent to create awareness. Yes, thank you very much, Gerald.
Yeah.
There are similar sentiments as well.
Right, thank you so much, Gerald. Yeah.
So here, there's one from Daniel Ashraf. I believe that the main issue now is that people still reluctant or having difficulties to bring their walls down. And that's it. To open up and what's being kept or pent up inside their hearts and mind. I think in an Asian context, I mean, me being a man, sometimes men are the ones who don't talk about their mental health. They rarely want to, they have to be macho man or something like that.
Right, the breadwinner of the family. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I guess what we don't realize is that we are all human and we all have feelings and emotions. And if we don't, if we are not able to address them, then there are going to be repercussions to the people around us and to ourselves. And it could mean it could mean your loved ones, it could mean your family, who are the ones who are going to be impacted the most. So I think it's a good thing that we talk about this particular topic and keep talking about it until there is a sense of normalcy in talking about one's health. So what do you think about that, Sarah? I mean, being in Malaysia and because of who we are, we don't really men generally don't really talk about it, but women are a bit more vulnerable in that sense to open up and discuss their mental and emotional health.
Right.
I mean, of course, that could be a whole different topic on its own, but just in a nutshell, maybe you could give us some insight.
Right.
Andrea, Sarah.
Andrea, would you like to go?
Okay. I think in my experience when I was working with some government sectors also, is that most of my clients were mostly women and teenagers, children, and things like that. But rarely do I get clients that are male.
All right. Okay.
I see. Okay. Well, that's the opposite to my one. but in generally, I mean, I can relate to Andrea. What she means is that when we talk about in terms of population or racial wise, I would say that generally speaking, female or women are higher. The percentage of women coming for seeking her mental health is higher than male or men seeking mental health. But we're not saying that both are affected, but in different ways. For example, for women, they are more open to seeking help because they're used to talking to a friend. They're used to kind of having this conversation. Like it's normal for a woman to see a therapist or see a friend, right? It's not something negatively bad or kind of hard for them to do so in that sense. Yeah, especially when they see their friends if a friend of a friend, share, oh, I saw this therapist, she was very helpful, and that would friend, a positive friend, right? That's one way. But it's okay for us, like I would say for women to be kind of seeing therapists not as stigmatized in that sense, unless they have they're in a more toxic culture or a working environment or environment where it's not very supportive or where mental health is looked down upon. That's a different topic. But I would say for men, I would say that although it's it's still lower than the percentage of women coming in for sessions, but I would say it is on the rise now. I mean, there is increasing.
Yes.
I mean, I would say that now I see more male patients coming in for sessions, and the fact that they take it at a very serious level, meaning they realize something's a bit off, and probably they start with a very brief consultation to see if they can build a rapport with the therapist, and if they feel like the therapy will help them. And then so far I would say that most have been very very consistent in their sessions, and progress, good progression, like maybe not being able to know what's the issue, and they find that they now know what's the issue and how to go about that. So definitely I would say there is progress, there is improvement in that, there is a rise in men coming up to seek the support, and they're not ashamed of it. I feel that that's something that I was very happy to see, like, yeah, I'm okay to see therapists, I'm not ashamed of it.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I didn't know that. I mean, that's news to me.
Yeah, because I think, again, like I said, because when the more sharing, the more we talk about this mental health on the various platform, whether it's on the community level or whether it's at a company level, right? The awareness is there, and then through that, people realize, actually, I need to do something about this. Something's a bit off. I know that I'm not my normal self. Things like that, right? Of course, there is cultural, aspect that can become a barrier. But like I said, at the end of the day, you know yourself best, and if you know that you're not feeling okay, you're not feeling your normal self, then you know that the only person that can really address that is practically like ourselves, right? So everyone can comment and say what they want, but they're not in our shoes and they're not living the life that we're living. So it's all about, it's okay to be, if in a way, like selfish, but it's not selfish. Self-care, taking care of yourself, is that taking care of your mental health. But I would say there is a difference though, like in terms of I mean, in terms of mental health, in terms of how men deal with mental health, and women is different. But I think that's a different topic. We'll leave it to the next topic.
Yeah. So, I mean, Daniel here says the barrier here is that is the culture of peers or judgmental environment, to which why people rather choose not to open up. True.
Yes,
true.
I agree completely, 100% with you, Daniel.
Yeah, spot on. So, here we've got a LinkedIn user who says, doing exercise, breathing practice, and meditation are a very effective way of stress and mental health management.
Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we have come to the end of the show. I guess we all had fun. We had fun learning. Fun learning about a very interesting topic. And there are going to be more topics covered within this pillar of mental and emotional well-being. And we are looking to bring you more interesting topics. Keep it locked on, and we really want to thank you all for all your questions, for all your insights. We appreciate them. Thank you for being with us. We overshot by half an hour, but it was interesting. I hope you really got all your questions answered, and thank you. Thank you, Miss Nasamani. You learned something. Thank you, Miss Adlina. We want to thank you, Daniel, our Daniel, Kevin, for all the questions that you asked, Dorothy, to name a few, and Malaysia. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Andrea, for your time. Thank you, Sakina Medicare. We look forward to more interesting topics coming up in the next season. And keep it locked on. Please share, share, and follow. And you can also get in touch with Sakina, and this is their website. So this you could reach them at this website. So once again, thank you, Malaysia. Thank you for your time. The Healthy Roja and Sakina Medicares bids you a good and pleasant night.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. I would just like to share that, the
Yeah.
engagement was amazing. I mean, the questions kept coming in and the engagement was great. So thank you so much. I mean, was an hour long, beyond 1 hour, I think. But the
Yeah.
fact that everyone stayed tuned and still in, we really appreciate the time and, to the fact that you stayed with us. So thank you so much. And hopefully, if you have any topics that you'd like to know more, feel free to share. I think they can share on
Yeah.
your
Yes.
platform, the Healthy
Yes.
Roger, right? They can
Yes.
suggest any topics, and I think perhaps we can discuss or do some topics from there.
So much for me saying goodbye. Part 2 definitely coming up. Definitely. It is a very interesting topic, I must say. And yeah, I guess if we keep going on, we're gonna keep going on. It is a very important topic, I must say, and I believe by what uh, the response that we got on the show tonight only goes to show that we need to bring the awareness more, and more people are willing to talk about it. So just before we close the show, Sarah, last words of wisdom. One go-to thing they can do today.
One go to. Okay,
Yeah.
take a time slot for your self care or me time. Whatever that is, do something. The one thing that makes you feel happy, right? Happy or relaxed, right? For yourself, anything, right? Just that's one thing that you could do to, I think that's my tip, right? Like I said, anything you can do, and I think that would be a good start.
Right. Andrea.
I think from me is to acknowledge your own efforts. Like sometimes it's not easy trying to do all these things, especially to take care of yourself. And then, like Sarah said, you need to make time for it. So it's also important to acknowledge what you're doing for your self-care, for your mental health, or for your physical health, and also kind of like be thankful that you're taking that step. Be grateful to yourself.
Yeah, that's a wonderful point, Andrea. I think the what she said, that is, to always acknowledge the efforts that you're doing. So every time you feel like you went through a tough day, just tell yourself, you did a good job. For example, myself, Sarah, she said, you did a good job, Sarah, of dealing with today's event, right? Just acknowledge the fact that you're doing a good job in dealing with all of this, right? Instead of the negative part, right? I think that would be good. That helps you to kind of get through those phases.
I think
Totally.
that's one important analogy, like related to what Sarah is saying, that even if you feel that you're going around in circles, like if you feel you made all this effort but you're still back in square one, I think it's important to see it as going up in an upward spiral. So yes, you might be going back to the same place, but you might be making some progress. So you're not exactly the same person, but you are slightly improving each step of the way.
Yeah, beautifully said.
So yeah, thank you very much. In summary, what they're saying is just a little step every day, one thing a day at a time. Don't go too far into the future, become scary. Don't go too far to the past, you become anxious. Fear comes in. Just live in the present, be thankful, be grateful. And I believe for all of you, Malaysia, we are one step ahead every day, and we will go into the future together. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much, Sarah. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you once again, Sakina Medicare, for your collaboration with me. And coming up next in 2 weeks is on fitness. So if you're interested in fitness has got something to do with your emotional well-being as well. So let's try to tie it all up, and we will see you in 2 weeks' time. Thank you very much, and good night, Malaysia.
Have a good night,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Bye bye.
Good night.